set a good, I think, foundation in terms of starting conversations, because before that, didn't look like, the two governments were actually conversing at all.
Yeah.
We need to find a way of striking a mutually beneficial relationship. The U.S. matters, Sizwe. They are responsible.
The question is, how far to the top does it go? For me, that's the question. And I will repeat something, and I will only repeat it not to lend credence to the allegations made by Mkhwanazi, but just to give those who are watching different ways of looking at what may be happening here. And I will repeat this because I wrote about it in an article for News 24. I wrote an article in which I expressed unhappiness about the fact that the president had moved the intelligence function to his office.
And move to people. Right? The same thing that we're doing in terms of bringing in external players to play in industries that they've not played in before. Does the running of this country have to continue to be by career politicians? At what point do we put the best men for the job? In terms of running certain ministries and running certain departments. If we are serious about the professionalization of the public service, if we are serious about building a capable state. It was interesting the other day when the president was talking about the suspension or leave of absence of the Minister of Police. He's bringing in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the professor is bringing, he's a professor, right?
Yes,
I don't think the guy is actually a politician. He's not a career politician, or at least I don't know him to be, right? And I'm also not sure what credentials he has for this portfolio, but I really think that we need to cast our net wide as a country.
Agreed.
We cannot continue to have an incapable state as if we are short of talent, because we do have a lot of people who know what they are doing. A lot of people who are actually, South Africa has so many centers of excellence. So it's therefore unfortunate that we continue to limit ourselves to a limited pool, and we continue recycling the same people when we can actually cast our net wider and we can actually benefit, from the intelligence, from the depth, from the substance, of so many of the talent that we have in this country.
Such an important point.
In acting against one of his cabinet members, one of the deputy ministers recently, the message that he sent, with that action was that I'm going to be decisive. I'm not going to take any nonsense from any of my ministers. You are going to toe the line or else. So a few weeks later, you are now faced with even more grave allegations of one of your cabinet members. Your actions, cannot be wishy-washy. You have to continue to demonstrate the same strength, and decisiveness, and determination. So if it's not going, honestly, I really think that leave of absence, whatever that means, is not commensurate with the serious allegations. It should have been suspension pending the outcome of the investigation. I really think that would have sent, because I don't think that there's much you can do. It's allegations at this point. They need to be proven, but I really think that a suspension would have sent, I think, a stronger message, Sizwe, than absence of leave or whatever this thing is.
We have, wow, what an interesting time to be alive. And South Africa's relationship with the US has just shot to the fore of the domestic and global agenda at the moment.
Yes.
This is a tough one because we are under some, attack may be a strong word, but there's very aggressive rhetoric coming our way.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have very deep economic ties with the US, and we want to make sure we protect those ties. How should we navigate this tenuous moment in US-South Africa relations?
Yeah, I think when you're saying we're under attack, you're right. We are under attack, by the US. What's coming to us as South Africa sees where it's intentional, it's strategic, it's deliberate. It's premeditated, right? It's not haphazard. It's not. So I think we have to be very worried, as a country. I think the Oval Meeting conversations, set a good, foundation in terms of starting conversations, because before that, didn't look like, the two governments were actually conversing at all.
Yeah.
We need to find a way of striking a mutually beneficial relationship. The US matters, Sizwe. They are responsible for 30% of the global economy. They have 35% of the global population. They own 50% of the military intelligence, in the world. So they matter. I don't think we can actually minimize, their role and their impact.
Sure.
I was looking at what NAMSA was saying, the Association of the Auto Industry, in terms of how the exports to the US since April, have gone down by 82%. How there are rumors of a Mercedes-Benz plant in the Eastern Cape shutting down. How some of the companies that are actually feeding into that, Mercedes-Benz supply chain are actually going to shut down. Sure. How the Eastern Cape economy is actually going to be decimated.
Absolutely.
In a country that has got 43% unemployment in terms of the expanded definitions, where you have more people that are unemployed than those that are employed in all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape. This is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
The CEO of NAMSA is actually saying that this is not just a trade issue. It is a socio-economic crisis in the making. So the sooner our government finds a way of finding, each other with the US government, the better. We need to find a resolution. We are too small an economy. And yes, we can find other trading partners and whatever the cases, but currently we're exporting to about 100 countries, Sizwe. There's only 195 countries in the world. So there isn't much, right? Right, exactly. And all the other countries that are affected by these US tariffs are actually trying to do exactly the same that we're actually doing. So we really have to find a way of how we salvage this relationship.
Well, Busi.
Bye, sweetheart.
Ngeke bafowethu ngeke.
Oh,
How.
Oh, moyingcela.
Hey,
Ungalokho nje ngagijima.
ningagijima ingane zami. Hey.
Nkosi. Bona. Petro plastic bezinto abayigqoka ekuseni.
Nkosi ya.
Hayi ngisho babumswe sengaba one teacher school.
Uyabona nje one teacher school iyosilekelela kwangempela ngeke isize le. Izobhubha izingane.
Kwenziwe nje ngothayela.
Hawu buka buku. Nkosi ya.
Nibe right ke neza. Siyanthanda. Akekho ke lolimele bulaba manje sesibedlela.
Naye ngabe uhamba la.
Ngabo hamba nabo.
Unga Nkosi ya.